Hi, this video has been asked for by Elizabeth. I'm Sharon Cruz-Pecina. I'm with Heaven Bound Norm Ministry. I'm an ordained minister. I'm also a board-certified Christian life coach. I am also a mental health coach with mental health and behavior. And I'm also a person who, when I was 13 years old, I was gang raped. And I went through a period of my life where I was so destructive. I hated me. I hated a lot of people. All because someone thought it was okay to hurt me. I blamed myself for years. Later on in life, I came to terms, God help me, to come to a place in my life where I was no longer being destructive because I sought out help. Part of my problem is I sustained a head injury in the process. And then years later, I sustained another one from when I fell down a flight of stairs. And all of a sudden, I became a very angry person. Before, I just hated the circumstances and I was destructive. I figured, well, this is all there is that people want from me. That's what I provided. As life went on and the older I got, the more educated I got. And needless to say, many of the things I've repented of and I've been forgiven by God. But it didn't change the fact that when I had my head injury, it was after I got born again and saved, and after I became a minister. So I started having bouts of anger, lots of anger, and I didn't. It wasn't me. I started compulsory eating, which wasn't me either. I was always very thin and very physically healthy. So I started learning and studying stuff. And I read the book by Dr. Amen called Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. And that's when I found out and started first understanding what serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, the cortisol, and GABA, and how it worked in the brain. See, serotonin is your natural happy feel-good. It's what your body produces. Like if you stub your toe and you get hurt, your body will automatically start producing something very similar to that of morphine. It's a natural occurring effect in the brain. Dopamine kind of heightens things. And cortisol, your brain produces for when you're in a fearful moment, when you're in danger. It's called, and what it does is it causes the fight or flight. And a lot of people hear of the fight and flight, but they don't realize there's also a freeze. When you've had head injury or traumatic experiences, your body, your mind tries to protect you. When I was young, very, very young, I was molested by a Catholic priest. So what happened to me when I was 13, it was still a progress of being damaged. And it made it hard for me to want to be close to anyone. But God created us to be relationship type people. God created us for love, to be loved. But when the sex that's supposed to be the one that God created to be your significant other, your spouse, but in life, when you're not married, or even if you're married and somebody forces their will on you, that's what rape is. It's where you say no and they still. Or you could become a victim of pedophile. or convict them of what's considered a computer crime. Well, people prey on people that are feeling lost. There's so many different people out there. There's ones that watch and wait because they see you and they think, oh, I want that one. Those are perverts out there, okay? It's not what God intended. And people say, well, why doesn't God stop it? Unfortunately, God gave all mankind free will. But He gives us the strength and the ability to go through what we're going to go through. Just like I did. So let me explain a little bit more. When you're in your brain, you have uptakes. Things that uptake the serotonin into the mind and proceed to use it. Well, some people are born where they don't have a natural, the brain takes up too much serotonin. And it puts them in an off-balance state. Well, when you have traumatic experiences, that can also cause that. Another thing that happens is when you're having a PTS, a traumatic experience, the GABA is gabapentin. Your brain produces GABA. It's actually GABA-butyl. It's a longer word than that, and I get tongue twisted on it. It tells the brain to stop. Stop. Okay? Without it, you just keep in a vicious cycle. So people who's had traumatic experiences, one, they have to learn to teach their body not to react every time they think about it. Your body, every time you think about what happened, your body will react like it just happened all over again. And so you will feel exactly what you felt when it first happened. So one of the things they teach is to start taking it down to the facts and say, yes, I was raped, and stop there. Yes, I was beaten. Stop there. That's a fact. But I choose not to be a victim. I refuse to become and obtain what they call a victim mentality and be remaining a victim to that person for the rest of my life. I refuse it. So you take it down to facts and you come back with statements of, no, I will not be a victim to this anymore. I will not allow my mind to victimize me. But the problem is you still have the problem with the chemical imbalance that takes from one, if you took severe head trauma to the left side part of the brain near the pituitary gland and the pineal gland, that's where your anger control center is, on the left side of the brain. And then when that gets hit, you'll start experiencing anger. People who end up with brain tumors can also experience this kind of anger because now they have something pressing. You hear the terminology that says, don't shake a baby. That's because the brain has like porcupine quills that holds the brain in place. The skull has these little things that helps hold the brain. And when you take and shake somebody, and you shake them really hard, that's like putting the brain on a cheese grater. Okay? It causes a lot. When they take it as a head injury, a hit, then you're going to find it's like poking holes through the brain. And then, so if you were to take and go online to Dr. Amen's Specs Gallery, and you will see all these brains that have been damaged, and even stuff like stress, PTSD, PMS, people who smoke, people who didn't smoke. You can see all these different brain and actually literally see in the gray matter holes. So if you've had traumatic brain injuries, coconut oil helps restore that kind of fatty tissue that helps the brain make it where that hole gets filled in, so that the synapses, the little nerve endings that shoots off messages throughout the brain, can now connect. But when you take a head injury, what happens is that gray matter gets damaged, and the neurotransmitters can't connect. That's why it's important to take certain herbs, or certain supplements, or prescription medication, whichever you feel you need. Okay? The 4 main ones, okay, is serotonin. Serotonin is actually in turkey, bananas. Things like this have, you can eat. Sometimes you just can't eat enough of that stuff to give you what you need. So, that's why you can get what's called 5-HTP, which is a natural supplement, a natural plant that helps you with producing the serotonin your brain needs. Then you have the dopamine. I actually have, let me grab this and I'll show you. I take magnesium. This is a magnesium complex. This is a multi, because your body actually has 6 different types of magnesium it needs. All right. That helps you to stop pain as well. And let me I'll move things around. Sorry. This here I like. I get this off of, these 2 I get off of Amazon. This is dopamine booster. Okay. This helps your motivate, encourage mood lift, and increases brain and mental energy. Basically, it helps improve memory. Then, like I said, there's 5-HTP, which is a natural serotonin replacement. Cortisol, that is, to be quite honest, right offhand, I can't recall the herb that helps it, but gabapentin is the one thing that does tell everything else, stop, slow down. Your brain wants to try to protect itself. It's trying to protect you from if you're a small child and you sustain a sexual molestation and things like that. It's very traumatic, but lots of times children just they can't emotionally handle it, so their brain will block it out. And doesn't mean it didn't exist. No, it still existed. But at the time that child, same like I did, when I finally reached a point, my brain allowed those memories to rush back. It was hard. It's hard to be a victim. It's hard on the loved ones. I spent half my life trying to destroy me because I felt that I should have died that night. God doesn't want us to die. He doesn't want us to continue being a victim to somebody else's horrible decision. Yeah, sometimes we put ourselves in a place where bad stuff can happen. We make bad choices. We all have made bad choices. And sometimes it's hard to forgive ourselves for the choice that we made that put us in that position. But you know what? When we can't forgive ourselves, we can go to God, we can go to Jesus and ask Him to help us, to forgive us. But in the process of this, God provided, if you read your Bible, you'll find that in the very first chapter of the Bible, God says, and there's herbs. And then later on, He says, the leaves of the trees are for our healing. And in Revelation, the last book of the Bible, it says, the leaves of the trees are for the healing of the nation. So there is, if you ever look into where pharmaceutical medicine comes from, you will find that most of the pharmaceutical medicine will take and strip from an herb or a mineral source, and then they put it to a binding agent, something like a caking agent, so that they can put it into a pill form. That's why myself personally, I prefer more natural than anything. But if you are in that position where you are going through this kind of stuff, you really need, one, a counselor. I am a mental health coach. I can help a lot of people, but there are some times you need a mental health counselor that will help you get through, because they can prescribe the prescription medication you may possibly need. If over-counter stuff is not working for you, then you really need to get a counselor. Somebody who can help you, walk you through, and help you. Back in the day, when all what I went through, the mentality of the world back then was, well, the girl had to provoke it. Well, now the world's mentality is, the woman doesn't have to, the girl doesn't have to provoke it. There's just sick people. People who forces their will on people. And it takes a lot to love somebody like us. Somebody who would take the patience and the time to understand we're broken. And it takes a special type of love to carry us through. So, especially if you're a victim of sexual crimes, healing doesn't come overnight. The memories of what happened don't go away immediately. The night terrors, the fear of falling asleep, being angry at people who really don't understand why you're angry, and you yourself don't really understand why you're angry, because most of the time you've taken severe head blows when that kind of stuff occurs. So, and even though lots of times when our loved one has gone through something like this, we want to shelter them and protect them and hover over them. But in some ways, that's the loved one's feeling of fear that they almost lost you once. They don't want to lose you again, because the next time they might actually lose you. So, loved ones, if you're loving them to the point that you're suffocating them out of your own fear of losing them, you can actually cause them to go away from you, and that's not something you want to do either. Yes, if they're a minor, you still have to set boundaries, and I agree with boundaries. I can only pray for you. I can help give you an ear to hear. I hope this helps. But I really recommend reading the book called Change the Brain, Change Your Life by Dr. Amen. He did a world-renowned, he changed the way psychiatrists looked at people when he proved what head damages can cause. God bless y'all. I hope this helps.